Thor Love and Thunder. Thor Love and Thunder is the fourth movie in the Thor franchise. Taika Waititi has come back to direct his second Thor film after directing the, I think, mostly praised, mostly, kind of well received Thor Ragnarok film. Even though now I think I've seen some dissension amongst people whether they like this tone of Thor. We're going to be getting into that during the review.
I
Of,
mean, but that's the way film Twitter goes. Like the first 2 weeks, everyone loves the film. Then when it drops on Disney Plus, no one gives a shit. And then a couple of years later, everyone turns on the film and hates it.
yeah.
That's not always.
That's the way film Twitter goes.
Film Twitter, yes, but the movie itself, not necessarily. And even at the time, I brought up that I wasn't that big of a fan of Ragnarok, and actually thought it was one of the weaker films in the MCU.
That's where I didn't really care about Thor as a character until they decided to, write him in a way that plays to Hemsworth's strengths as an actor. In that, they did basically make Thor a himbo.
Yeah, and I hate that for it.
But I agree with one point that, with as much as I like Ragnarok, I think they undercut a lot of the dramatic moments with jokes that don't really fit. They got a laugh, but it's like, let your stakes be high.
Right.
Yeah. So they're back here with Thor Love and Thunder. Whether that tone is, going to be a little bit different for people here, whether they have come to kind of like it better, we're kind of going to be getting into all that with the review. So like I said, this is kind of the fourth movie of the Thor franchise. Taika Waititi's come back, along with other kind of members here. You have Korg, who is played by also Taika Waititi, who's back. You have Valkyrie, who's back, who's played by Tessa Thompson. Also a returning character from the Thor franchise, who we saw in the first two movies, Natalie Portman, who's come back as Jane Foster. This time she's coming back as the Mighty Thor. And just like much with Thor Love and Thunder, much with Thor Ragnarok, Thor Love and Thunder does what that movie did, where it combines two comic book storylines. In Thor Ragnarok, it was kind of combining the Planet Hulk storyline, as well as the kind of destruction of Asgard, kind of that different storyline there. So it kind of combined those two different comic book storylines. And with Thor Love and Thunder, what it combines is the Jane Foster storyline, where she became Thor, and then also the storyline of Gore the God Butcher. And Gore the God Butcher here is played by Christian Bale. Seeing the movie kind of, now, I know there was a lot of discussion on Christian Bale's look. They said that they did change the look of the character not to match Voldemort from the Harry Potter series. I think for the most part, I think it's a good look. I think I still prefer the look in the comic. I think that look is still a lot bit better. And then what they do with the power of Gore, because in the comic, Gore power comes from the symbiote, something that they couldn't do here because the MCU, Marvel, Disney.
By Sony, can't do it.
Because Sony has tainted that label.
Yeah.
Of the symbiotes.
Yes, very much so. And Kal-El said Thor, God of Thunder, and Mighty Thor comics. And they said the comic was so much better. So it's kind of combining those different storylines here. And in there, so you have the main villain of Gore the God Butcher, who's played by Christian Bale, whose whole mission is basically, if you play God of War, it's basically Kratos. It's the same kind of character arc here for that character, where he is a person who is a devout worshiper of the gods, believes in the gods, has so much faith in the gods. But the gods, they turn, he realizes what shitbags they are, basically. And he decides to go on a mission to kill every single god with the help of his blade, and basically murder every single god in the entire universe.
It's like something called like the Necro something.
Yeah, the Necro sword. Yeah, Christian Bale basically read any book about Greek or Roman mythology and said, you know what? Fuck these guys, all of them.
Yeah,
he's not really wrong.
So that basically sets him off on his mission of that, and where he intersects with Thor. So with this movie, I was very much looking forward to it. I was a big fan of Ragnarok. Ragnarok, I think, is one of the few great movies of the MCU that they have. I was a big fan of the tone and the style of that movie, and it very much differed from the other two Thor movies, which I thought were very much weak. I didn't like Thor Dark World all that much, and I thought the first Thor was just average for me. So when Ragnarok came about, it just, to me, it had a lot of style. It had a lot of flair to it, and them leaning on Chris Hemsworth. You see kind of this difference. Now that he has in his career of playing roles like in Ghostbusters, where the guy's actually got some good comedic chops. He's actually pretty good at it, and they kind of use that to their benefit here. And for me, I'm personally a guy that from Ragnarok onward, I have liked what they've kind of done with the Thor character. I could see kind of some of the complaints that people have of people said they've made him too dumb. I don't think he's dumb necessarily. I think you see the cracks in that where it's the stuff like in Infinity War where he's talking about how he's a guy that's lost so much, and a lot of it is him kind of hiding behind that in order to have himself just be kind of closed off and not people see his true pain. And then in Endgame, I know a lot of people didn't like that, where they kind of they seemed like they just was like one big fat joke they kind of throughout the movie. That I thought was still okay. It was fine for me. And I will say that right off the bat, that Thor: Love and Thunder is not as good as Ragnarok. I don't think it is. I think that, but that I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think that Ragnarok was such kind of a breath of fresh air for this character. Now that we've kind of already seen it, it's kind of like, okay, you're doing it and you're doing it again, and then and you're leaning on it, and I think it still kind of works. But I don't think it's as strong as what they did with Ragnarok, and I think Ragnarok was a lot tighter. What were kind of you guys' thoughts on the movie?
I kind of feel the same way about Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, the same way I do about Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2. I feel like both are kind of using similar styles because both are made by the same director, but I think with Love and Thunder, it takes some of the weaker elements of Ragnarok, which was, like I said, that undercutting dramatic tension with jokes way too often for my taste, and they kind of pulled back on that in some ways here. It was like when it's a scene of drama, or you let Christian Bale act as Gore the God Butcher, they didn't try to undercut him with a whole lot of jokes, which I think works really well. I liked how they integrated Natalie Portman's Jane Foster back into the story. They finally let her be a character outside of giving Chris Hemsworth the fuck me eyes for like 2 hours.
Yeah. Dusk?
And some of the jokes in here, I don't think it's as funny a movie as Love and Thunder, but I think the running jokes here work better than in Ragnarok.
Dusk?
How do I even come to this? This movie is probably what will probably be seen as when MCU finally became a joke. When it just said, who cares? If you have any interest or any desire to see any of these mythological characters or characters from comics or Greek mythology or Norse mythology or any other characters represented with any decency, respect, care, don't watch this movie. If you want to see some fun, flair, action, and occasional serious moments by Christian Bale, who elevates the crap out of this movie, sure, check it out. It's fine. It's a fine enough entertainment in that regard. But every aspect of this movie, if you enjoyed Ragnarok and felt, hey, maybe it was a little too goofy and it kind of undercut all the aspects of the character of Thor that we've been building up, or other aspects of it for a while now. Well, sir, you have not even begun to see what they do for this one, and how much they just do not even care in the least about his character and treat him like a complete himbo joke of a character. They lose any lasting ounce of any form of Shakespearean quality that was left in his character. And I think from this going forward, I would not suggest giving Taika Waititi any more control of this. If Ragnarok was with him having control but restrained, this is him having no one to tell him no. And the man just doesn't have any funny bone in his body. It doesn't have any serious bone in his body. When you give him his own stuff, like Jojo Rabbit, it's hilarious. It's actually really good. And he's able to find like a weird balance. In other works, he's actually a pretty good director in some aspects. There are points when you're in the monochrome areas of where Gore, the God Butcher, is. And that's genuinely interesting. And kind of the best parts of it when they kind of go to this area. But when we're talking about plot beats, character motivation, character moments, and proper usage of tone, that man couldn't care less of what came before. Couldn't care less of what's going on. And if you care even a little bit about that, you're just not going to have a good time. That's just my feeling on it.
So basically, if you liked Thor and Thor the Dark World, if you like those movies...
No, I'm not even Thor 1. Just Thor 1. Or even Thor Infinity, or Thor Ultron, or any of those, which I consider, at least Ultron / Infinity Thor is considered peak. And you know what? You can say all those other points of, oh, well, Infinity War, he was able... Well, they took the stupid out. They actually had a competent writer come in and go, yeah, maybe let's pull back on the whole Ragnarok thing and actually make him a character again briefly, until Endgame comes and they just go, the hell with that. And now they're doing it again, and it's just, there's no consistency in this damn thing. There's just joke. Yeah. And look, if you want to make a complete comedy and a complete joke of this, fine. Don't have it in the MCU then. Stuff is a one-off. Or what if?
Well, I mean, I think most of the movies in the MCU roster is mostly comedies. I think they're comedies / heist movies, comedy / this, comedy / I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy.
At least they find a balance. They have levity. There's a difference. You can have levity and to release tension, and you do it properly.
Both Ant-Man movies are basically just like heist comedies.
And I hate the second Ant-Man movie. I absolutely hate it. That one scene where he's trying to explain his background, and all I'm asking from the characters is just to hear, I want to hear Lawrence Fishburne explain his character, and that goddamn phone coming in is like, oh no, I just want to answer it just because they lost their stupid ass shoe. Get that out of here. Get all that crap out of here. Treat something with respect, damn it. Something.
Okay.
Either something matters or nothing matters.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the MCU stuff, that's kind of mostly what they do. Then, it's people have also complained about that, undercutting the tension, with comedic moments. I think here with this movie, I think there's a lot of that. I think there's quite a bit of that here. And I think there was some of that also in Ragnarok. I think with here, I think Taika Waititi also has some good emotional moments, because I think the moments with Jane is very good. And if you know the storyline from the comics with the Jason Aaron run of why she became the mighty Thor, you'll kind of get more, you'll understand that. And I think that what this movie did, which the Doctor Strange 2 did not, where it made you care about a relationship between the hero and then his main love interest, something that Doctor Strange 2 tried to do with, Doctor Strange and Christine, about he loves her across all these different multiverses. And I was like, even at the end of that movie, I was like, I still didn't give a shit.
That's completely understandable.
I love Multiverse of Madness, but that is the weakest part of the movie for
me.
And here, I think this is the first one that actually made the relationship between Jane and Thor feel real, because in those it's mostly just Chris Hemsworth pontificating and Natalie Portman giving him the fuck me eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think she wasn't even in character really all that much in the first two Thor movies. Here, I think in this movie, it really makes you care about the relationship because you see more context to their relationship, what drove them apart. And then when she comes back, it's almost kind of like a four-way between Thor, Jane, Stormbreaker, and Mjolnir. It's kind of like a you know what I mean? It's like your ex-girls with a new man, and they're having a great time, and then it's like and then your old partner that's with a new partner, they've upgraded now and they look better and they're doing more cool shit.
They look better. They start dressing better.
Yeah,
they start working out. They can do more.
Yeah, I mean it's
every time. And there is a running joke about like every time Stormbreaker sees Thor with a new weapon, it starts acting finicky, which always got a laugh at me. That's a running joke that I thought worked well.
Yeah, I thought the stuff they did with that, like making him, just kind of really jealous, and Stormbreaker kind of coming in and, almost looking at him, like giving him, like, even though the Stormbreaker doesn't even have a face, you could tell it was just looking at him side-eyed, like, even though it doesn't even, have any eyes at all.
And every time Thor looked guilty as hell.
Yeah. I mean, so I thought that, some of that stuff I thought did work pretty well. And I did kind of like that dynamic. And I thought, that finally, Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman did have good chemistry in this movie. When it comes to kind of, kind of other things that kind of happen, like I said, Christian Bale's always good. I think, he's always good in everything he's in. And I think he's good here as Gore. It's just that there's just not enough of him. He's in the movie kind of so little.
Yes, and what this film does really well is similar to something like Black Panther or Infinity War. We open with Gore, and we get his backstory in the first few minutes of this film. I don't know if they changed it from the comics, but it does add more character. It's basically giving him the arc of like PS4 reboot Kratos versus like old God of War.
Yeah.
Without giving spoilers. And I thought that worked really well. And of course, Christian Bale, one of the greatest working actors of all time of this generation, and he is always going to bring it, no matter what.
Yeah, and I thought he brought it here. I just think you could have done more with him, and there's just not enough of him in the movie. Especially when you see that you only really hear about him killing all these gods. You only get to see one god that he kills, which I thought was disappointing. I would have liked to see him go out and you actually see him doing this, different killings and everything like that. And I think you still could have kept it in a PG-13 way, showing him kill all these different gods. I thought that was kind of disappointing.
And there's a lot of like news out there about a lot of Gore's scenes got cut. It's like we were supposed to get appearances by actors like Lena Headey, and she got cut from the film as well. There's like rumors of the Taika cut, which please Twitter shut the fuck up about, like, release the Taika cut.
Yeah,
we don't need it.
Yeah, because that's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like a lot of stuff was kind of really pulled for this. I mean, this is a trim. It's 2 hours. You know what I mean? It's from the longer movies that we've kind of gotten so far in this phase, it's just like a trim, kind of just quick little 2 hours. And some other new additions that kind of come in here. You have Russell Crowe's Zeus, who I don't know. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen a live action portrayal of Zeus where he has a Greek accent. That's the first time I've ever seen that before. I don't know if anybody else.
This is the first live action portrayal of Zeus where it actually feels like somebody read Greek mythology, because he is just this fat, hedonistic Greek dude that wants to fuck everything. And Russell Crowe, he is one of the highlights of the movie because he shows the difference between chewing on scenery and munching on that shit like Tic Tacs.
Yeah. And I like the stuff with Russell Crowe as Zeus. Dust, what do you think about Russell Crowe as Zeus?
He's probably the best part of the movie. He's just Zeus. He's like the only believable part of that damn movie. He's just like, I'm Zeus, and this is the Greek Parthenon.
And where's the next orgy?
Yeah, there's the next orgy. I got thunderbolts, and what do you do on my land? I don't care about this god killer. I'm gonna F him up. And that's just what we gotta do. No, but we need your help in order to don't care. Unless I really, really need your help, I really don't care. What have you done for me lately?
He,
In fact,
he,
where's
liter- he
in fact, where's
literally
Odin?
stopped.
Where
He
is Odin?
literally,
Odin's dead.
Zeus literally stopped and said, "That's a you problem, my guy."
He really did. Basically, and you know what? I appreciate that because he's the only one in this entire damn thing that I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Actually, that's actually sticking to something. But hey, that lasts for a good, little while, and then something happens to him, and then he's out for a little while.
Yeah.
So that lasts
Yeah.
too long.
You also
Although
have.
I am curious how they're going to do a certain character, bringing them into the MCU, considering what they've done with the other characters so far.
Javon Good, he's in the chat. Hello, Javon Good. He mentions they clean up those CGI masks. They look bad in the trailer. Thanks for bringing that up. I think some of the CGI in this movie doesn't work that well. Like, there's some stuff with the mask that don't kind of look good. But I do like, overall, I like the look of the movie. I think I like this kind of aesthetic. Again, it's kind of that Ragnarok aesthetic of just the colors. Like, when they go to, what's it called? Iptimate City? City of the Gods. That does look good. I like the stuff they do. Of course, whenever they're traveling, like with the bridge with the goats who are basically from that meme that was there like a few years ago of the screaming goat. That's what they sound like. Let me play it real quick. It's basically that's basically what you're gonna get. Basically, it's just that meme with the kind of the screaming goats. You're kind of gonna have that there. So I like the overall look of the movie. And kind of the style they're doing with that. Even the different various kind of costumes Thor's wears. I know that a lot of the different changes in costume is just because, like, hey, we got to make action figures. It's like, okay, here's Thor in his this costume. Here's Thor in this other costume. But, I did kind of like those different looks. Like when Thor was in his Thunderstruck outfit, I thought that was a cool looking outfit. When he's with the Guardians. Also, by the way, if you're expecting to see a good amount of the Guardians in this, they're not in the movie that much. They're only in the movie for the first, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. And some of them don't even have lines. Like, it's mostly just Star-Lord who's mostly talking.
They're pretty much actively just trying to get rid of Thor.
Yeah. So, also, I think we should point something out here. This movie's so all over the place that it's very clear from many different interviews that a lot was cut from this movie. And I mean a lot was cut. I mean, there are apparently planets, different characters, worlds, parts with the Guardians. A lot of stuff was cut that it was filmed. So I have no idea what that's going to mean, but that also might add to the idea that this movie feels very cobbled together and not all that very smooth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you get when you just improvise your lines all the time and don't really have a very clear-cut script.
I think also with Natalie Portman coming back, like I said, I do like her coming back as Jane. Really makes it. I was surprised they really make me care about her character, something I never really did before. Tessa Thompson, of course, she's back as Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson, always amazing. She's always great. She just seems like she really has a lot of fun playing Valkyrie and playing, that character. And then also she has great chemistry with Chris Hemsworth and, everyone else involved. I also will say kind of with some of these moments in this movie, you could have, I think, had some moments where there could have been a little bit more stakes, where I feel like they could have, they really undercut that moment. Some characters who fates that, I won't say too much, but could have gone further with. I'll get into spoiler talk with that, what I mean by that. But yeah, I think you could have gone further with that. Overall, I think some of kind of the biggest issues with this movie is that it doesn't reach the same heights as Ragnarok. I don't think it has that's as good of humor as there. I think there's not enough Christian Bale's gore, and I think there are a lot of good kind of dramatic moments that could have been good that are undercut by jokes. But I think when they do bring in the good drama here, with like Jane Foster or, some other characters, I think, when they just play it straight, I think it does work and it does work well. So overall, I would give it, I think a tune in, just a kind of a basic kind of tune in for me. What about you guys?
Yeah. For me, I'm kind of on the same page as you. I don't think Love and Thunder is as good as Ragnarok was. However, I do think um, it has a much more interesting turn of its villain with Christian Bale as Gore. Even though it's very clear a lot of his stuff got is on the cutting room floor. Um, I think this does a better job at not undercutting its dramatic tension with a lot of jokes, and the fact that you made me care about Natalie Portman and Thor in as Jane Foster and Thor's relationship after 4 movies, well, 2 movies with that character where I couldn't give a fuck less. That's a feat in itself. Um, I had a lot of fun with this film. I don't really give it. I didn't really care about Thor's character until Ragnarok. So I'm probably going to give this a low tune in. I do kind of agree that it is a movie that kind of feels all over the place.
Yeah. Dusk.
Um, Despite what I'm saying, I do think there are good moments in that. I think the use of colors is something that Taika Waititi is good at. I just think he went a little overboard on some many aspects on this stuff he introduces into the in the gods and on city and the goats and all that. That's all neat little Norse mythology things. That's nice to see. Sif comes back for a hot second. That's nice to see her again in a movie. Um, I just and even just some of the monochrome areas when you're in area when you're dealing with the God Killer and other aspects of some of the effects and just even some of the costume designs pretty cool. And even some of the characters when they have time to do so have a little bit of moments here and there where they do get to shine. I just think the package the sum it just doesn't match the sum of the parts. The little moments here and there that are pretty good just don't hold a cohesive nature, and it just ends up leaving a lot to be desired, both from a narrative, character, and even just tone advantage. There's so much whiplash in this movie that I was pretty sure I was going to break my neck just between going back between so many different tones.
Right.
So, and die from whiplash. But I can't give this a tune in. I just really can't. If you want to check it out on a matinee or stream it, this movie is a perfect stream it. There's no reason for to go to the theaters for this. Absolutely no reason. If you got a good TV, good surround sound, you just want to chill at home and watch this, by all means, check this out later when it comes out and stream it, or even just now if you can stream it. Going to the theater, paying all that money, getting yourself a popcorn and whatever. I mean, if you like colors, you just like rainbows and crap, that's fine. But if you just want to watch and see the next MCU movie, wait for this to come on home. Don't waste your time going to a movie theater to see this. Even matinee, just stream it.
Yeah. I will say with this movie as well as like being part of the MCU and going to see it, it's like if you're a person who says like, well, I gotta keep up with all this MCU stuff to follow what's next, it really is mostly contained to Thor and Thor's story and his whole thing going on. Like, it's not a situation like with Doctor Strange 2 where okay, you got to bring in Wanda and you got to understand WandaVision, and you're bringing in America Chavez because you're setting up America Chavez to be in Young Avengers or whatever they're going to do with her, and all this other stuff. Like, it really is contained to Thor and the Thor kind of mythos and all that other stuff. And then even, of course, there's 2 stingers with this. Like they do with these movies. Even the mid-credit stinger, it's not like setting up something totally different. It's setting up another Thor movie. I'll leave it at that. Like, it's setting up another kind of Thor movie. We'll get into it in spoilers. But probably tomorrow or something like that, we'll get into it. But yeah, it's setting up that. And then there's the after credit stinger, which is that's one if you really want to stay for it. It's nothing. It really doesn't probably set up anything. But yeah. So, and as far as like if you are a person if you didn't like Ragnarok, then you're probably not going to like this because it's the same kind of tone. But I have seen people who say they loved Ragnarok and then they were really disappointed by this and they thought it was too much comedy in it. Even though Ragnarok, I think, is also a straight comedy. There's some people who said like, yeah, I love Ragnarok, but I just thought this was just too much. So It depends. You got to see it for yourself, maybe, to kind of get your own feeling about it. Yeah. But I thought it had some really good elements in it. I thought it, had some good elements, stuff like I mentioned before, with some of the characters, some of the humor, and then the new additions I thought were pretty good. But it doesn't. It's not anything amazing. I don't think. And Chris Hemsworth, as far as the Thor character and what they've done with him, yeah, I mean, I've never, like I said, I think, I never was really big on his characterization in the first Thor or the second Thor movie. So Ragnarok onward, I've kind of liked that different, change they've made, and kind of with his character. And yeah, yeah. So those are my thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder. Those are our thoughts on that. All right. Did you guys want to do a spoiler talk right now, or did you? Because I know Nikki's coming on tomorrow dusk. He's not going to be on tomorrow. Did you guys kind of want to do a spoiler talk?
I mean,
I
y'all
can
can
hold
wait
off
till
until
next
tomorrow.
yeah, you guys can wait.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna say many nice things.
Okay. All right. Thor. That was our Thor: Love and Thunder review.